All the women fell for the Korean Mafia boss in his club, except the black bartender he really wanted. Part 3. They say the most dangerous moment is when you finally stop looking over your shoulder. 3 weeks. That's how long the silence lasted after Damon's threat. 3 weeks of Ji-hun's invisible security. 3 weeks of Jefferson's thriving under the illusion that we'd won. 3 weeks of sleeping peacefully in Ji-hun's arms, believing the nightmare was finally over. Then Min-ji didn't show up for her shift. My head bartender. The woman who'd become my closest friend in Seoul. The first person I'd trusted enough to call family since leaving New Orleans. 24 hours of silence. Her apartment stripped clean. Her phone dead. No trace on any camera in the city, and Ji-hun's people checked them all. When the package arrived at Jefferson's, I knew before I opened it. Her silver bracelet. The one her grandmother gave her. The one she never took off. And a burner phone that rang exactly once. Damon's voice purred through the speaker like honey over broken glass. Hello, baby girl. I believe I have something you want. Come alone to the coordinates I'm sending. No Kim security. No police. No tricks. A pause, then softer, you have until midnight, Maya. After that, I start sending her back to you in pieces. And I'll make sure she knows it's your fault. The line went dead. Ji-hun found me standing frozen in my office, the bracelet cutting crescents into my palm from how hard I was gripping it. It's a trap, he said. Not a question. Of course it's a trap. My voice sounded distant, mechanical. But Min-ji is innocent. She trusted me. I promised my staff would stay civilian, stay protected. Maya. His hands caught my face, forcing me to meet his eyes. That deadly softness had returned to his voice, the one that preceded violence. You told me once that you ran from one dangerous man and wouldn't depend on another. I remember. Then hear me now. His thumbs traced my cheekbones with impossible gentleness for hands capable of such destruction. You don't have to depend on me. But what if, just this once, we choose to be dangerous together? I stared at him, this man who'd offered protection without possession, partnership without control, strength without demanding I diminish my own. And I finally understood what Damon could never comprehend. He thought taking Min-ji would force me back into the terrified woman I'd been when I fled New Orleans. Thought threatening someone I loved would make me surrender. Thought isolating me from Ji-hun would leave me vulnerable. He was wrong about all of it. Because the woman who walked out of that marriage was already dangerous. And the man standing before me? He didn't want to cage that danger. He wanted to unleash it. Together, I agreed, the word tasting like war. But Damon is mine to finish. Ji-hun's smile carried edges sharp enough to cut. I wouldn't dream of taking that from you. For the first time since I'd fled New Orleans 4 years ago, I wasn't running from a predator. I was becoming one. Like if you're ready to see Maya finally turn the tables on her abuser. Comment what you think will happen when these two dangerous souls unleash their combined power against Damon. If you missed parts 1 and 2 of this story, links are in the description below. Subscribe for the explosive conclusion to this journey of power, revenge, and finding strength in the most unexpected partnership. 7 hours until midnight. Jefferson's was closed, the sorry, private event sign hanging in the window. Inside, Ji-hun's inner circle gathered around the bar where I'd once believed I could build a life separate from darkness. The coordinates lead here, Soo-jin, Ji-hun's intelligence specialist, said, pointing to a map displayed on her laptop. An abandoned shipping facility near Incheon. Satellite imagery shows minimal activity for months, then increased movement in the past 48 hours. It's isolated, Michael, Ji-hun's head of security, noted. Limited access roads. Excellent sight lines for surveillance. Perfect for an ambush, I added, studying the layout. He'll have men positioned throughout. Snipers, probably. Ji-hun stood beside me, his body radiating controlled fury even as his voice remained measured. How many? Based on recent arrivals, at least 6, Soo-jin answered. Possibly more inside where thermal imaging can't penetrate. Too many to be Damon's personal security, Ji-hun observed. Hired mercenaries? I nodded. With Martelli cutting him off, he'd need outside help. Ex-military, probably. People who don't ask questions when the money's right. As they continued discussing approaches and contingencies, I stepped away, Minji's bracelet still clutched in my hand. She'd been the first person at Jefferson's to treat me like a friend rather than just a boss. Had shared stories of her grandmother who raised her. Had become my guide to Seoul beyond tourist attractions. Damon had chosen his target perfectly, the person whose absence would hurt me most. Or so he thought. Ji-hun approached silently. You're thinking about what he'll do to her. I'm thinking about what I'm going to do to him, I corrected. Damon always underestimated me. Thought my calm meant weakness. My patience meant submission. The bracelet bit into my palm again. He never understood that I was learning. Watching. Memorizing every vulnerability he tried to hide. What do you need from me? He asked simply. A distraction, I said. Something big enough that he focuses on the threat outside while I come in from an angle he won't expect. Ji-hun nodded, understanding immediately. He expects you alone, afraid. Using his men against my security while he waits for you to surrender. Exactly. So we give him what he expects, just not how he expects it. As we returned to the group, a plan taking shape between us, I felt a strange calm settling over me. Not the paralyzing fear I'd expected, not the frantic desperation Damon wanted. This was something else entirely, the cold clarity of a predator sighting prey. Have you ever had that moment when you realize the person who hurt you doesn't know who you've become? Comment below about a time you surprised someone who underestimated you. And subscribe to see how Maya's transformation concludes. 5 hours until midnight. I stood in Ji-hun's penthouse bedroom, methodically preparing for what was coming. The dress laid out on the bed was one of Damon's favorites. A sleek black sheath that had once been part of my carefully constructed persona as his perfect wife. I'd kept it through every city, every reinvention, though I'd never worn it since leaving New Orleans. Tonight, it would serve a purpose beyond Damon's shallow appreciation. The fabric was stretchy enough to allow movement. The high neckline and modest hemline would give no hint of what I carried beneath. Beside the dress lay tools I'd selected with the same precision I used for mixing complex cocktails, zip ties thin enough to hide against my skin, a ceramic blade that wouldn't trigger metal detectors, a small vial filled with a compound my grandfather had taught me to make for customers who became problems. You don't have to do this, Ji-hun said from the doorway. We could send someone else in your place, someone trained. No. My voice was soft but absolute. Damon will know. And Min-ji will pay the price. He nodded, accepting my decision without argument. The team has the schematics, he said. There's a service entrance on the northwest side that doesn't appear on the public building plans. Likely overlooked in their preparations. Perfect. I slipped the ceramic blade into a custom sheath. How many men are you bringing? 12. Split into 3 teams. Ji-hun moved closer. Michael will lead the main distraction at the front. Jun's team will secure the perimeter. Soo-jin will coordinate from our command vehicle. And you? With you. His voice carried no room for negotiation on this point. 2 blocks back, giving you the lead but close enough to intervene if needed. It was the perfect balance, respecting my need to handle Damon personally while ensuring I had immediate backup if things went wrong. As I zipped the dress, Ji-hun's phone buzzed with an incoming message. Soo-jin's facial recognition program got a hit, he said. 2 of Damon's hired men were identified entering a hotel in Gangnam. Former French Foreign Legion, now working private security with questionable credentials. That confirms our theory about mercenaries, I said, securing my hair in a simple knot. Any sign of Minji? Not yet. But they've detected movement inside the main warehouse area consistent with at least one person under guard. I closed my eyes briefly, picturing Minji. Her quick smile, her quiet efficiency behind the bar, her kindness that had made Jefferson's feel like home. Maya. Ji-hun's voice pulled me back to the present. We'll get her back. Yes, I agreed. We will. When I caught sight of myself in the full-length mirror, I understood what Damon would see, the woman he'd married. Beautiful, accommodating, carefully restrained. The perfect ornament for a man of his stature. He would be shocked to meet the woman I'd become. One who had built empires of her own, who had found partnership without surrender, who had learned that true strength came not from dominance but from choice. You look lethal, Ji-hun observed, his reflection appearing behind mine in the mirror. Good, I replied. Because I am. When he stepped closer, his hands settling lightly on my shoulders, I leaned back against him, accepting the momentary comfort before the storm. There's something I need to say, he said quietly. Not because of what might happen tonight, but because it's true regardless. I turned to face him, recognizing the gravity in his tone. I love you. The words were simple, unadorned with qualification or demand. Not despite your darkness but including it. Not as something to control but as something to honor. The declaration, so unlike the possessive claims Damon had called love, settled into the space between us, honest and clear. I love you too, I replied, the words feeling like both vulnerability and strength. For seeing me completely and never asking me to be less. Now, I said, picking up my small clutch that contained the burner phone Damon had sent, let's go get Minji back. If you've ever found strength in someone who sees your complete self, light and dark, hit that like button. And subscribe to see how this partnership faces its greatest test yet. 3 hours until midnight. The lights of Incheon Harbor gleamed in the distance as our convoy approached the meeting point. 3 nondescript black SUVs moved in careful formation, maintaining communication through encrypted channels. I sat in the middle vehicle, reviewing the building schematics one final time, committing every entrance, hallway, and potential hiding spot to memory. The warehouse had once been used for storing luxury goods before shipment, high-end electronics, designer items, expensive liquors. Now it stood abandoned, the perfect setting for the kind of drama Damon had always favored. 5 minutes to drop point, the driver announced quietly. Ji-hun sat beside me, outwardly calm though I recognized the controlled tension in his posture. Unlike his usual business attire, tonight he wore tactical black, practical clothing that allowed movement while still looking refined. Remember, he said, the moment Minji is secure, our priority shifts to extraction. No extended confrontation, no matter what Damon says or does. Understood. I knew he was talking more to himself than to me. Ji-hun's instinct would be to ensure Damon never threatened anyone again, a permanent solution that would eliminate future risk. But we'd agreed, this was my pass to close, my decision to make. The SUV slowed, pulling off the main road onto a service path that would keep us from Damon's surveillance. 2 kilometers from the warehouse, we reached the staging area. A small clearing concealed by dense trees. As our team deployed, I stepped away, needing a moment of silence before what was coming. In the distance, I could make out the dim outline of the warehouse where Damon waited with Minji. The burner phone vibrated in my clutch. Running late, Maya? Damon's voice carried the same false charm I remembered too well. Your bartender is getting anxious. She keeps asking if you're coming to save her. So touching, her faith in you. I'm on my way, I replied, keeping my voice neutral. Traffic from Gangnam. Alone, I hope. For her sake. Yes. The lie came easily. No security, no police, No Ji-hun. Just like you asked. Good girl. The condescension in those two words, once a constant in our marriage, now rolled off me like water from oil. I always knew you'd make the right choice when properly motivated. I'll be there within 30 minutes, I said. Don't hurt her, Damon. This is between us. Of course, baby. This is just about us. Always has been. His voice softened into what once would have seemed like sincerity. You know I never wanted to hurt you. You forced my hand when you left. 4 years ago, those words might have triggered doubt. Tonight, they only confirmed my understanding of what he truly was, a manipulator who rewrote reality to maintain control. 30 minutes, I repeated, then ended the call. Ji-hun stood watching me, his expression revealing nothing of his thoughts. He's trying to pull you back into his narrative, he observed. Make you doubt yourself. I know. I slipped the phone back into my clutch. It used to work. And now? I smiled, a cold expression that felt foreign on my face yet perfectly right for the moment. Now it just confirms why I need to end this. Permanently. Ji-hun nodded, understanding exactly what I meant. Not just rescuing Min-ji. Not just escaping Damon again. But closing this chapter so completely that it could never threaten my future again. It's time, he said simply. I nodded, taking a deep breath of the night air, perhaps my last moment of stillness before the storm. Whatever happens in there, I said, turning to face him fully, thank you for understanding why I need to do this my way. His eyes met mine, absolute certainty in their depths. Your strength was never something to control, Maya. It was always something to witness. In that moment, I realized the fundamental difference between the two men who had shaped my recent years, one who had seen my power as a threat to be contained, the other who saw it as a force to be honored. Have you ever had to face someone who once controlled you, but as the stronger version of yourself? Comment your experience below. And if you're invested in Maya's journey from control to controller, subscribe now. 1 hour until midnight. The warehouse loomed before me, its abandoned bulk silhouetted against the night sky. Security lights illuminated the main entrance where 2 men stood guard, their posture confirming my suspicions, professional mercenaries, not Damon's usual hired muscle. From my position behind a stack of shipping containers, I had a clear view of the approach Ji-hun's team would take. The plan was precise. Coordinated disruption that would appear as a full frontal assault while actually serving as misdirection for my entry on the opposite side. In position, Michael confirmed through my nearly invisible earpiece. Ready on your mark. Thermal imaging shows 7 heat signatures inside, Su-jin added. Main cluster in the central area. 2 separated in what appears to be an office space on the east side. That's where Min-ji will be, I said quietly. Damon would keep her close, use her as a shield if necessary. Agreed, Ji-hun replied, steady and controlled from his position behind me. Proceed with Phase 1. The words had barely registered when the first distraction began, a delivery truck approaching the main gate, driver appearing lost and confused. As the guards moved to intercept, tactical lights suddenly blazed from multiple directions, momentarily blinding anyone looking outward from the warehouse. In that instant of confusion, I slipped toward the service entrance on the building's northwest corner. The door, just as the schematics had shown, was partially concealed behind a loading dock that had collapsed from years of neglect. Behind me, I could hear the controlled chaos of Ji-hun's team engaging the exterior guards, shouts, the dull thud of bodies hitting ground, the occasional crack of a suppressed weapon. The service door was locked, as expected. I removed a small device from my clutch, one of Su-jin's creations, designed to override electronic security systems. Within seconds, the lock disengaged with a soft click. I'm in, I whispered, slipping inside and finding myself in a narrow utility corridor. The air was stale, heavy with dust and the lingering chemical scent of whatever had once been stored here. East office is 30 meters ahead, then right at the junction, Sujin guided. 2 heat signatures still present. 3 hostiles moving toward the front disturbance. Perfect. The plan was working, pulling Damon's security toward the perceived threat while leaving him vulnerable from behind. He would be expecting me to approach from the front, escorted by his men after they'd verified I was alone. Instead, I would reach him first, on my terms. Moving silently through the corridor, I reached the junction and paused, listening. Voices echoed from the main warehouse area. Shouted commands, the sound of movement as Damon's men responded to the distraction. But from the right hallway, where the offices waited, I heard nothing. That silence worried me more than noise would have. Activity at the front entrance is drawing most attention, Ji-hun reported. Jun's team has neutralized 4 hostiles. Michael is maintaining pressure to keep focus forward. Understood, I whispered, then turned right, moving deeper into the building's abandoned office section. The hallway stretched before me, doors on either side leading to what had once been administrative spaces. At the end, light spilled from beneath a door, the only illumination in the otherwise darkened corridor. As I approached, I heard Minji's voice, soft but unmistakable. "They'll come for me. And when they do, you'll regret this." My heart clenched at the defiance in her tone. Then Damon's laugh followed, that smooth, cultured sound that had once seemed charming but now carried only menace. "Oh, I'm counting on it, sweetheart. Maya's coming, certainly. But not they. She'll come alone, because she knows what happens to people she cares about when she disobeys." I reached the door, positioning myself to the side. Through my earpiece, I could hear the continued reports from Ji-hun's team. The distraction was holding, the perimeter guards neutralized, the approach route secured. "I'm at the office door," I whispered. "Proceeding with extraction." "Understood," Ji-hun replied. "We're 3 minutes from your position if needed." With one final breath to center myself, I reached for the door handle, turned it slowly, and pushed. The office beyond had once been an executive suite, spacious, with windows overlooking the harbor. Now it stood stripped of anything valuable, illuminated only by portable LED lamps that cast harsh shadow. Across the concrete floor, Minji sat zip-tied to a metal chair in the center of the room, a bruise darkening her cheek but her eyes alert and fierce. Beside her stood Damon, looking exactly as I remembered, expensive suit, perfect hair, the casual stance of a man who believed himself in complete control. His eyes widened briefly when he saw me enter from the hallway rather than being escorted in from the front. But true to his nature, he recovered quickly, smile spreading across his face like oil on water. "Maya," he said warmly, as if greeting me at one of our former dinner parties. "Right on time. Though I must say, I'm disappointed in your choice of entrance. The front door would have been more civilized." I stepped fully into the room, keeping the ceramic blade hidden against my wrist. Minji's eyes found mine, relief washing over her features before she carefully schooled her expression to reveal nothing to Damon. "Let her go," I said simply. "She's not part of this." Damon laughed, the sound echoing in the empty space. "Everyone you care about is part of this, Maya. That was always your weakness, caring too much about the wrong people." He gestured toward Minji. "Like this one. Or your precious Ji-hun." "I'm here, just as you asked," I said, taking another step into the room. "Alone. No security, no police, no Ji-hun. Now release her." "Not quite yet." Damon moved behind Minji's chair, placing his hands on her shoulders in a gesture that appeared casual but contained implicit threat. "First, we need to discuss your theft. The $2 million. The documentation. Where is it?" "Secured," I replied truthfully. "With instructions for release if anything happens to me. Always so careful." He smiled, fingers tightening slightly on Minji's shoulders. "But you've miscalculated this time. The Martelli agreement is void. They're no longer involved." This is personal now, between you and me. I figured as much when you went rogue against their recall order. Something flickered across his expression, surprise that I knew about the order, perhaps, or annoyance at the reminder of his diminished standing with his employers. The Martellis have limited vision, he said dismissively. They don't understand that some matters transcend business. Like a wife's betrayal. Ex-wife, I corrected automatically. His smile tightened. Not legally. Not yet. His hands moved from Minji's shoulders to her throat, resting there with deliberate menace. But we can fix that. The documentation and the money in exchange for your freedom, divorce papers, signed and legal. And of course, your bartender's life. I maintained careful distance, assessing the room. No visible weapons beyond the gun holstered beneath Damon's jacket. No signs of other guards in the immediate vicinity. If you're tired, I said carefully, then let's end this. I have the account information in my phone. Release Minji, and I'll transfer everything to you right now. His eyes narrowed slightly, suspicion warring with desire for the simple resolution I offered. Show me the phone first. I removed the clutch from under my arm, opening it slowly to reveal the smartphone inside. As I held it up, I took another casual step to the side, continuing my subtle repositioning. The account information is in a secure folder, I explained. Once Minji is free and clear, I'll unlock it and transfer everything to whatever account you designate. For a long moment, Damon seemed to consider this offer, his hands still resting against Minji's throat but his attention fixed on the phone. On the promise of resolution, of recovering what he'd spent years chasing. Then the building shook with a sudden explosion from the front entrance. Phase 2 of our plan, the escalation designed to force Damon's remaining men to commit fully to the front distraction, to believe they were under substantial attack rather than calculated misdirection. Damon's head snapped toward the sound, momentary confusion crossing his features before understanding dawned. His eyes returned to me, cold rage replacing the previous facade of reasonable negotiation. You lied, he said softly, the dangerous tone I remembered too well. You didn't come alone. No, I agreed, dropping all pretense. I didn't. Everything happened in a blur of precisely planned motion. As Damon reached for his gun, I lunged forward, the ceramic blade flashing in the harsh LED light. Minji, seeing her opportunity, drove her head backward into Damon's stomach, momentarily throwing him off balance. The blade caught him across the forearm, opening a clean slice that caused him to reflexively release his grip on the gun he'd half-drawn. It clattered to the floor as he stumbled back, expression morphing from confidence to shock. Now! I shouted, both to Minji and into my comm. Minji threw her weight sideways, chair and all, rolling away from Damon despite her bound hands and feet. In the same instant, the office door burst open, Ji-hun entering with fluid precision, weapon drawn. Damon, recovering quickly despite the bleeding gash on his arm, lunged for his fallen gun. I intercepted him, delivering a sharp kick to his wrist that sent the weapon skittering across the concrete floor. Maya, stop! He shouted, genuine fear entering his voice for perhaps the first time in our relationship. This isn't you. You're not violent. You never knew me, I replied calmly. You only knew the version of me you created. The one who had to survive you. Damon's eyes darted between me, Ji-hun, and the door, calculating odds, looking for escape routes. The strategic mind that had made him valuable to the Martellis now focused entirely on survival. The money isn't worth dying for, he said, backing toward the windows. Keep it. Keep everything. Just let me walk away. That's not an option anymore. I advanced slowly, blade still held in a practiced grip. You threatened my staff. You took Minji. You brought your vendetta to my home. Behind me, I could hear Ji-hun cutting Minji's restraints, his quiet voice assuring her that extraction teams were in position, that medical support waited outside. What are you going to do, Maya? Damon asked, his back now against the windows overlooking the harbor. Kill me? You don't have it in you. You never did. I smiled then, a cold expression that made his eyes widen. I'm not going to kill you, Damon. That would be too simple. In my peripheral vision, I saw Ji-hun leading Min-ji toward the door, supporting her as she struggled to walk after hours tied to the chair. Good. They were clear. Now came the part of the plan that was mine alone. What I'm going to do, I continued, stepping closer, is take everything from you. Just like you taught me. Confusion crossed his face, quickly replaced by alarm as I reached into my clutch once more, removing not a weapon but a small USB drive. This contains every record of your operations for the Martellis. Every murder. Every payoff. Every client. I held it up where he could see it clearly. Copies have already been sent to the FBI, Interpol, and 3 competing organizations in New Orleans. You're bluffing, he whispered, but the fear in his eyes told me he believed me. The documentation was never just insurance against you finding me, I explained calmly. It was leverage against this exact moment. When you inevitably broke the agreement and came after me again. You can't do this, he said, desperation entering his voice. They'll kill me. The Martellis don't forgive failure, especially not exposure. I know. I stepped back, creating distance between us. That's rather the point. From the hallway, Ji-hun called my name, a reminder that extraction teams were waiting, that our window for clean escape was closing. You have perhaps 24 hours before the Martellis learn exactly how thoroughly you've compromised them, I told Damon, backing toward the door. I suggest you use that time wisely. Maya, please. For the first time, genuine terror filled his voice. The control, the confidence, the manipulation all stripped away, leaving only the reality of his situation, abandoned by his employers, exposed to his enemies, without allies or resources. Goodbye, Damon. I turned away, facing Ji-hun who waited in the doorway. I won't be seeing you again. As we moved swiftly through the corridors toward the extraction point, I felt a weight lifting. Years of looking over my shoulder, of preparing for the moment Damon would find me again. Not gone completely, perhaps, but transformed into something manageable. Outside, the night air hit my face, cool and clean after the dusty warehouse. Min-ji was already being attended to in one of the waiting vehicles, medical personnel checking her injuries while security teams maintained perimeter watch. Ji-hun's hand found mine as we walked toward the extraction vehicles, his touch grounding me in the present rather than the confrontation we'd left behind. It's done, he said simply. Yes, I agreed. It's done. And for the first time since I'd fled New Orleans 4 years ago, I truly believed it. If you've ever reclaimed your power from someone who tried to diminish you, like this video now. Comment about how it feels to close a chapter that once seemed endless. And subscribe for stories that remind us transformation is always possible, even from our darkest experiences. 1 week later. Jefferson's hummed with quiet energy, regular patrons enjoying craft cocktails in an atmosphere designed for conversation rather than spectacle. Behind the bar, Min-ji worked with her usual precision, the bruise on her cheek faded but still visible beneath careful makeup. She'd insisted on returning to work after just 3 days, declaring that hiding at home would mean he wins. She's doing well, Ji-hun observed, appearing beside me with 2 glasses of the special reserve whiskey we kept for significant occasions. Better than expected, I agreed. Though she still jumps when the delivery door opens unexpectedly. In the week since the warehouse confrontation, news had filtered through Ji-hun's intelligence network about Damon's fate. He'd fled Seoul within hours, abandoning his hotel room and most possessions. Last confirmed sighting placed him in Bangkok, desperately seeking protection from former associates. The Martellis, true to prediction, had issued what amounted to a death sentence once they discovered the exposure of their operations. Damon Williams, once feared and respected in criminal circles, was now running just as I had once run, looking over his shoulder, changing locations constantly, trusting no one. The symmetry wasn't lost on me. But unlike my years of flight, his would have no sanctuary at the end. No Jeffersons to build. No Ji-hun to partner with. No community to embrace him. As we watched the bar in comfortable silence, Ji-hun reached into his pocket, removing a small box that he placed on the desk between us. "I was waiting for the right moment," he said quietly. "This seems to be it." The box was not what I expected, not velvet, not shaped for jewelry. Instead, it was polished wood with intricate carving similar to the chest in his penthouse that held his grandparents' letters. Inside lay 2 keys, modern, electronic, clearly designed for security systems rather than traditional locks. "What are these for?" I asked. "A place that is neither Jefferson's nor my penthouse. Neither your territory nor mine." His eyes held mine steadily. "New ground. Neutral ground. Ours together, if you want it." Understanding dawned. "You bought a home." "I found a possibility," he corrected carefully. "Whether it becomes a home depends on your decision." "Where is it?" I asked, lifting one of the keys from the box. "Hanam Dong. A traditional hanok that's been modernized. Private courtyard garden. Space for both solitude and togetherness." His voice carried careful neutrality. Security built into the structure rather than visibly imposed upon it. I turned the key over in my fingers, feeling its weight, both physical and symbolic. Not a wedding ring. Not a traditional commitment. Something uniquely suited to what we'd built between us. "I'd like to see it," I said finally. The smile that transformed his features was answer enough, the rare, genuine expression that few ever witnessed from Seoul's most feared businessmen. As we prepared to leave Jefferson's, to Minji expertly managing the evening crowd, to the space I'd built from determination and dreams, I felt a sense of completion that had nothing to do with Damon's defeat or external security. This was the true victory, not just survival, but thriving. Not just escaping darkness, but creating light. Not just finding protection, but building partnership that enhanced rather than diminished. For years ago, I'd run from a man who saw my strength as a threat to be controlled. Today, I stood beside a man who saw it as a force to be honored. And the woman who had once hidden behind careful masks now stood in her full power, unafraid of her past, uncompromising in her boundaries, unstoppable in her future. The predator had become the architect of her own destiny. If you believe in second chances, in finding partnerships that honor rather than diminish your strength, in creating your own definitions of love and commitment, subscribe to our channel. Your support helps us share stories that remind us all. Our past may shape us, but it never has to define us.